My name is Travis Noah. I live in Anchorage, Alaska. I've lived in several. I've lived in multiple parts of the state, though. I lived in Fairbanks, Alaska, from 1994 till um, 2008, and then I moved here October 15th of 2008. Um, I experienced a challenge called severe spastic cerebral palsy, and I am 37 years old. What I do for work is um, pretty simple, but it's as far as what the title means, but it's a broad spectrum. I am a peer advocate for anybody with disabilities or elderly. Let me be very clear. I'm not just, you know, uh, developmental disability specific. I deal with people who are elderly who need assistance getting services or their life is giving them difficulties. Um, I've been doing advocacy work in one form or another for since I was 18 for others, but professionally I've been doing it probably the past 2.5 years. First things first, before you get involved in advocacy, and I know this is going to sound maybe a little bit blunt, but you got to have confidence in yourself. You really have to feel confident that you can get your point across um, anytime you talk to someone. And if you can't, practice that first. Because when you're an advocate, even for yourself, if you can't get your point across, people will indicate that they're interested, but then you're going to get slowly ignored. Um, if you practice how to get your point across and you become more effective at it, then when you get up and you do public speaking about what you believe, your your passion, your heart, and your story is going to come through more than if you just go up there and just say what you feel. Yes, that carries your story across, but sometimes if you haven't practiced how to do that, when you're doing public speaking and advocating, you're doing it in front of a lot of people most of the time, and that can get a little nerve wracking. So I really would recommend practicing first. A executive director of an agency that I was with several years ago, um, up in Fairbanks, was a good friend. She saw that I was a good speaker, verbally anyway. I had a good verbal vocabulary. I may have a what's considered a developmental disability, but it doesn't affect my mind or my verbal um, vocabulary. So she wanted me to speak at a key campaign rally, which I had never done before. I didn't even know, where it was held or anything. She told me about it. They took me to Juneau, and then, I planned my speech a little bit, but then she told me, "Oh, it's going to be in front of the Joint Senate and House Finance Committee. You're going to be speaking to senators and representatives that sit on it." And you talk about a panic attack. I had never done that level of speaking in my life. Um, spoken to people before and gotten my point across, but to people that at the end of the day could affect my life based on their decisions, I'd never done that. And so I kind of was thrust into it. Um, and then after I did it a couple times on a local city or a state level, uh, fellow friends that were well known throughout the state um, approached me to take this partners in policy making course that the University of Anchorage used to put on. I took that course And then I proceeded from there to try to get on the Governor's Council for Disabilities and Special Education around 2004, which I did. And then from there, was on that for about 3 years, and then I just kept doing it off and on the rest of my life after that. Strengths are very easy. I'm verbal ability. Anyone that knows me or anyone that gets to know me uh, will tell you that I'm very good at being a verbal person, and I can bring points across. I'm also very good at being able to bring a unique outlook to different things. Um, I can look at things from sorry about that, a um, challenged point of view, but I can also look at it from a funding point of view, for example, because everything that we do um, need when we are experiencing a challenge of some type requires funding of some sort to get it paid for most people that are a part of our lifestyle. And I can look at it from both points of view and give different avenues. Case in point, that's partly what's developed my career into what it is now. And even on a personal level, I'm now a part of the um, governor's committee for the Department of Vocation and Rehabilitation. That committee's job is to make sure that people that want a job with a disability, elderly and veterans included, not just disabilities, can have a job without barriers in the way. So my abilities focus around helping other people live their lives no matter what their limitations are. That one, honestly, I can't take full credit for that. I didn't even know I could do that until the former director of Hope Community Resources, when he hired me into the position I currently hold, suggested that I do a vlog. I had never done one in my life. So really, this was kind of a crapshoot. And I've had to learn as I go. And when I first started, I had people around me that were helping me do the videos. Now, it's gotten to a point where I've just learned enough about the system that I know what methods work for me. And the bigger thing with that is I strive to come up with topics that might be beneficial to people who are experiencing a challenge with something. Like one of my biggest videos to date, still, I did last year, which was a video on how to report your wages if you're working to the Social Security Administration without having to go into their office monthly or mail it and hope to the world that they actually get it. Well, through trial and error, I figured out a way to do that electronically. I created a tutorial to show people how to do it because I knew if I'd been running into the problem for years that other people had, and I wanted to put something out there. And to date, that's one of my strongest videos, just as an example. Disability pride means having pride in yourself and taking the term disability out of the phrase disability pride, because anybody that's disabled, in my mind, and especially for me, you're not disabled. Again, if you're born with the circumstances that you're handed, you're not disabled. How are you disabled? Because you don't know anything any different. And that's the part of society that we're trying to change, is getting people to understand that just because we have unique sets of circumstances, that doesn't mean that we can't contribute to society. And as far as what I'm most proud of, as far as myself, I would say it's how far I've come over the past almost 7, 8 years. I say that because when I was 28, turning 29, I had a back surgery um, that saved my life. I went in to see a surgeon because I was having severe back pains due to an injury I sustained uh, about a year and a half prior to that, and it wasn't getting any better. Really long story short, he found out that my scoliosis in my spine was to the point of nearly killing me. Um, I decided to go through the surgery knowing that the surgery may not work. It did. It saved my life, but it took me 5.5 years to recover. So the fact that I've been able to pick my life back up with help from friends and mentors and do what I'm doing now and turn it into not just a passion but a career, I'd have to say that's the pinnacle so far in my life. I don't want to stroke my ego too much, but my overall goal, if I'm not doing this kind of work as my own business, is either this is my own business, this kind of work that I'm doing now, or just as equally important, me being an executive director of a 501c3 that supports people with disabilities. Because I think it's time that someone like me who really believes in it and who receives services and needs assistance be running a nonprofit that provides services. I'm not saying that the people that run the agencies now aren't good at it. I just think at least one agency needs to have somebody with a disability running it. One thing, the term disability doesn't exist if you think about it. Yes, it exists as far as a medical term is concerned, but no one is disabled. No one is. Everyone is capable of something in some different way. And everyone that you're going to see in these video clips is proof of that. I've done things that I didn't even think were possible for me. And I've found ways to accomplish things people thought they weren't even sure I could do, my family included. And they're some of the more supportive people in my life. So don't ever let what your challenge is define you. Figure out what you're capable of. And if you don't know, work with people who could help you figure it out. And that doesn't have to be people that are paid for a living to do that either. It can be people who are also doing the kinds of things that I'm doing on a regular basis. So figure out what you're capable of. And to any families watching this, don't let society tell you what your child can and cannot do, period. Take pride in the fact that your child is around, that they're capable, and let them explore what their lives are. Because trust me, you'll have pride in what they're capable of when you are allowed to give them a chance and see what they're capable of doing. Everybody will be surprised at what your child is capable of doing.